to the Relentless CEO Podcast with Adam Kifer. Follow your path to success alongside icons and industry leaders in martial arts, fitness, and more. Let's go. This is the Relentless CEO Podcast.
Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Relentless CEO Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Kifer, back by popular demand, the reaction episode. So we are going to pull up some random Instagram reels. These are ones that I've saved over time. Some of these I have not watched in a long time. And I'm just going to give you my authentic take on it, my reaction. Please let us know in the comments your take on the videos and what you get out of it as well, because I would love to sort of just hear from our audience and see you guys engaging with each other, because you guys have a lot of things that you guys can teach each other just share with each other about takeaways from a lot of these videos. Hey, Relentless Nation, what is up? If you've been listening to this podcast, you know I never sell anything on this podcast. We don't even have sponsors for our podcast because I want it to be about giving you value. That's going to change for this episode and for the next few, because we have the most important event in the history of the martial arts industry coming up, the Relentless Membership Summit in Chandler, Arizona. This is an event that every martial arts school that wants to level up and push the boundaries of what they can do and the impact they can make should be at, because you're not only going to be around industry experts in business, marketing, instruction, athlete development, but you're also going to be around people from outside the industry that have scaled success at levels we've never even seen at our industry. For example, one speaker alone has over $100 million in sales. Another speaker was the video director for Mr. Beast, the 245 million subscriber YouTube channel. And then we have industry staples like myself and Dave Kovar and Jody Tension and Kelly Murray. We are bringing you guys the best of the best to help you guys get to the next level. And I will promise you this will be unlike any other martial arts event you've ever been to in the best ways possible. Our speakers are accessible. You can come up and talk to me in between sessions. You can come network with us at the networking party. And we like to go all out with our entertainment. We're bringing you guys some of the best stand-up comedians as well to perform at this. So you guys are going to have fun. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to level up. And you're more importantly going to get to go home and make a massive impact in your community as a result. Tickets are on sale now. Get them before they've gone. We've sold out the last 3 years. RelentlessSummit.com is where you can grab your ticket. And I hope to see you at the summit. Now back to the podcast. Without further ado, let's jump right in.
It doesn't take you a long time to go build a successful business. It takes you a long time to become the person who's willing to do it. It doesn't take you a long time to go build a successful business.
I love that. It doesn't take a long time to build a successful business. It takes you a long time to become the person who can actually do it. And I think this gets lost in translation a lot with entrepreneurs, where we are just like, I need more business skills. I need more business skills, which, believe me, you need more business skills. But it's also about like the personal journey that we go on as an individual on leveling ourselves up constantly. I think the most important thing that you can do as a leader and the founder and the owner of your business is consistently invest in yourself on becoming better knowledge in business, becoming or just acquiring more skills in general, whether it's marketing, whether it's how to teach better. Investing in yourself and then applying what you learn will always pay off. It will always be one of the best investments you make as long as you apply what you learn. Okay, we have to remember that our businesses, our martial arts schools, are not a set it and forget it model. Okay, we have to be in there, we have to be doing the work, but the more you level up, the more opportunity you have to level up your team. And we talked about this before. I cannot be a level 3 leader and then all of a sudden expect my team to develop into level 5 leaders. I need to become a level 5 leader before I can make my team become a level 4 leader. So you upgrading yourself is giving you more space to upgrade your team and make them better as a result. All right, next one.
Do not allow my confidence to offend your insecurity. Oh. If I could get up and dance, I would dance right now. If I could get up and shout, I would shout right now. Do not allow my confidence to offend your insecurity, because I dress like I dress because I'm confident. I look like I look because he's confident. We walk like we walk because we're confident. I don't even use cologne. Now, somebody asked me, what is that you're wearing? I said, confidence.
Damn. Dude, I love Coach Prime. like one of my favorites. I want to play that first part again, though.
Do not allow my confidence to offend your insecurity.
Do not allow my confidence to offend your insecurity. You know what he's saying there? He's saying the opinions of other people does not matter. Do not let it offend your confidence. Do not let their uncomfortableness with your growth affect you. Okay? Do not allow my confidence to offend your insecurity. That's on a t-shirt. We're getting that on a t-shirt. It's going to be on there. We're going to send royalties to Coach Prime or something. We'll figure it out. But guys, I think this is so important. I think a lot of us put so much weight on the opinions of others that it just paralyzes us. We stop growing as a result. We stop moving forward because we're outgrowing other people at the same time, and those people don't feel comfortable with the gap that you're creating between them. Never worry about other people understanding you when it comes to your growth and your vision and your goals. I think the more people that do understand where you're going probably means that you're not thinking big enough or thinking outside the box enough with your vision and your goals. I want to set goals that make other people uncomfortable. I want them to look at it and be like, you're crazy. Like, even you saying that and putting that out into the universe is crazy. Cool. I'm going to think and dream those crazy goals. So even if I get 80% of the way there, I'm still going to be pretty far along when it comes to this chart of success that I want to gravitate towards. Man, Coach Prime, holy crap. And while we're on this, guys, I want to point out something real quick. When you hear the confidence that Deion Sanders speaks with, the confidence that he just uses when he talks to his team, if you watch clips of him, watch his Netflix documentary, by the way, but if you watch the clips of him, he always has that certainty and that confidence. And I guarantee it's because he practices these things. Okay, he practices what he's going to say to his team. He comes prepared with notes of what he's going to tell them. A lot of us, when we teach class or when we talk to our athletes or our students, we're so used to winning it all the time. But when you win it, you don't have this certainty in your voice that inspires the people that you're talking to. So us as the leaders, we gotta practice what we're going to teach, just like we expect our team members and our staff members to practice what they're going to teach as well. We want to show up with that confidence and that authority. Next.
Look at our generation. Brainwashed, weak, depressed, addicted, lazy. Do you want to fit in? No? Show them what your last name means. Become unstoppable. Become Vanzen.
I don't know what Vanzen is, but I do sort of like the whole theme behind that is no matter how much the rest of the world is against you, like, don't try and be like the rest of the world. That's why they're against you. Try and be different. Try and stand up. Try and stand out with what you're doing. If the rest of the world is criticizing each other, trying to create division, hating on each other, be the one that leads with love. Be the one that shows kindness. Be the one that steps out to set a different example from what everyone else is doing. And I think for us, that's something that we can pass on to our students as well, of standing up. I still remember from grammar school, my teacher always used to tell me what's right is not always popular and what's popular is not always right. And it's instilling that same sense of integrity with our athletes and our students to be able to stand up and stand out even if everyone else is against them.
It doesn't matter what you just did. It doesn't matter. It doesn't count. The count now is 0. And that's what happens when you wake up in the morning. It doesn't matter what you did yesterday. It doesn't matter how far you ran yesterday. It doesn't matter the workout you did yesterday. It doesn't matter you got on the jiu-jitsu mats yesterday. It doesn't matter you got a promotion yesterday. You wake up today, the count is 0. And that means it's go time.
Fucking Jocko. So motivational. The count is 0. I would love this to be on repeat for our entire industry because, and I feel like we're getting better. Let me just say that first. But our industry has this habit of wanting to talk about what they did 20 years ago and 30 years ago and 10 years ago and 5 years ago instead of, well, how are you living now? What are you doing now? How are you treating people now? How successful are you now? Cool, you won Battle of Atlanta in 1972, but you're talking about that because you have insecurities right now that have to make you talk about your accomplishments in the past to make you feel good about yourself. But instead, how are you living right now? And I think for our industry, getting a black belt, getting a 5th degree, getting a 3rd degree, 7th degree, whatever you are, that's awesome. That's great that you made that accomplishment. But what now? Like, make your life more important than what you did 5 years ago or 10 years ago by how you act and how you live in this moment. I would love if our industry just grabbed that mindset a lot more. I think it would push us forward instantly. Next.
If I offered you $10 million, would you take it? Yes?
Yes.
And what would you say? Thank you?
I would. I'd say thank you.
But the only catch is you don't get to wake up tomorrow. Would you still take it?
No.
Exactly. So that means waking up tomorrow is worth more than $10 million. So wake up with a smile on your face every day and say that you're worth $1 million.
That is some high quality advice. That was amazing. That was really good. Thank you so much.
So just to recap this, he goes up to someone who says, if I offer you $10 million, would you take it? The guy's like, yeah, of course I would take it. But he's like, the catch is you don't get to wake up tomorrow. Would you still take it? No, obviously, right? So I think for us, what this is telling us is to think about perspective and what we're actually placing value on in our lives. And is it really as important as we're making it out to be? Hormozi talks about all the time about how when he's 65 or 70, there's going to be different things that he's thinking are important than he does now. And it's funny because I was reading through, when I was traveling last week, I started going through all my journal entries for like the last, pretty much since January, and even some into last year. And there was one journal entry that was what 65-year-old Adam would think is important right now. And it was, none of it was like how much money I have or did I build an empire? It was like, did I spend quality time with my kids? Did I teach them the things that are going to help them to pass on the Kifer legacy to the next generation? Did I spend quality time with my wife? Did we do date nights consistently? Were we spontaneous? Did we go on fun adventures with each other? Did we never take ourselves too seriously and still act like teenagers dating when we're well into our 50s and 60s? Like, did we stay consistent with our walk with God? Like, all of that is in my brain, trying to put myself in the body of 65-year-old Adam. Those are the things that I would have looked back and been like, you know what, if I did all these things well, I don't have regrets in life. Like I can die in peace, I guess, right? For us, I think we get so caught up in the moment and the now. We get so caught up in material stuff. We get so caught up in the bills that we have to pay this month that a lot of times we just lose sight of, at the end of the day, what is really going to be the things that matter to us and the things that we place value on. There's a great book called The Last Regrets of the Dying, I believe it's called. We have it out in our little Relentless library out there. But it's an interesting book. It's pretty much from the view of a hospice nurse who's with all these different patients throughout her whole life that are literally on their deathbed. And she's just talking to them about what they wish they did more of or less of in their life. And none of them are like, oh, I wish I had more money. I wish I bought that Mercedes. It was never that. It was always spending more time with family, doing more things, going on more adventures, traveling, trying out things that fear kept us back from trying. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like I would say in the last couple of years, my main focus has just been like, say yes to new opportunities. Not necessarily like business opportunities, but like we went to Colorado this last week for a mastermind, and we got there and Kelly's like, hey, we're gonna meet up with my friend, we're gonna go paddleboarding. I've never gone paddleboarding before. We had a blast. It was so much fun. I was like, it made me want to go like buy a paddleboard, but I'm like, we live in Arizona and we're gonna like stand on the sand on my paddleboard. But like those opportunities are so cool. Like, or some masterminds will have like hikes and stuff that you get to go on and see these crazy waterfalls. Like, say yes to those opportunities to try new things. Like it always creates new experience. And if you didn't like the experience, you know that you don't want to do it again. So you still learn something. All right, next, this is Jordan Peterson, it looks like.
I told Michaela when she was a little kid, you're going to have a very hard life. It's going to be brutal. Don't ever use your illness as an excuse. Like, it's going to be difficult for you to do things, difficult for you to get up in the morning to go to school. She had the worst case of arthritis that the Toronto Sick Kids Hospital had ever seen. Well, so what's worse than that? Well, what's worse than that is adopting the role of victim, becoming resentful, and turning against life. Don't fool yourself about your illness, because then you won't be able to distinguish what you can do from what you can't do.
So I think that's so powerful. I talk a lot about, my kids have a good life, but I don't necessarily want them to have an easy life. And that doesn't mean that I want them to have to go through like terrible things like sickness and all that stuff. That's not what I'm saying. But I want them to have struggles, because in the struggle is where you learn how to overcome. In the struggle is where you find the success, or at least a formula to be successul. So you guys may know this. My oldest son, we had a fire pit, like a faulty fire pit accident, and he got very severe second-degree burns on his feet and legs. If I showed you the pictures, like when I show people the pictures when they ask to see them, like their face, like they're just speechless when they see it, because it was bad. But during it, when we were in the hospital for 2 weeks with him. During it, the conversation we kept having with him is, hey, this sucks that this happened, right? Like I would much rather have been able to take the pain for him and take the burns for him, so he wouldn't have to experience it at all, right? But the conversation with him was, hey, this happened to you, right? Like you got burned. We can't fix that. But what we can change is how we respond to it. We can choose to be upset that it happened and be a victim and say, you know what, we're never gonna make s'mores again. We're never gonna go by a fire. We're never gonna do that again. We could also say, you know what, my feet got burned. That means I probably can't do martial arts for a long time. I can't like go do this, and this. And we can use it as a reason to not do a lot of things. But how happy are we going to be if we're using this as a reason to not do things? So I'm like, instead, this is a struggle that God's putting you through to make you stronger. So we're not going to use this as an excuse to be a victim. Okay. So when we start doing martial arts again, hey, you know what? It's going to be tough the first couple of times. And maybe when you start getting sweat on your feet from working out, it's going to burn a little bit. Right. But you know what we are going to do is we're going to learn how to push through those moments. We're going to learn how to overcome, and we're going to build resilience. So that way, any other challenge he faces compared to what he just went through, it's going to feel like a breeze. That's what we want to teach our kids. Okay. We want to help them to embrace the suck and find the positives out of that situation. That's going to help turn them into an even stronger, even better, and even more resilient person in the end. I have seen victim mentality ruin lives like a drug addiction. Okay. Like where people start getting this mentality, they start losing their family as a result because their spouse starts picking up on the victim mentality. They see how it affects the kids. They start to see their business decline as a result. There is nothing good that comes from having a victim mentality. We have to build mental toughness and mental fortitude that can combat those voices in our head that's telling you to be a victim, to tell you to use this as an excuse for things. And for kids, it's all about those conversations that we have and how we coach them through challenges and tough times. So for us as martial arts instructors, we should be challenging our students daily when they're with us. We should be making them do hard things. And then at the same time, we're also going to be empowering them and encouraging them on how to overcome these hard things. So that way they can relate it directly to life. When something doesn't go right in life, when one of their friends betrays them, when someone starts saying bad things about them at school, when they encounter a bully, when they get a sickness, like we want them to be so mentally resilient and strong that their first thought is like, whatever, I got this. Like I'll find a way through. That's what we want to build. And guys, we are in a unique position to be able to instill this mindset in the next generation of kids to make them stronger than the current generation.
I used to just think like he's a ball hog. And then I read something where Kobe Bryant said, I came to practice with you. I saw what time you got there. I saw what time you left. I saw the type of energy you put in. I saw the commitment to the game. And so I'm going to take the last shot because I don't trust you. I'm like, oh, it makes sense now. I thought he was arrogant. Kobe said I was in practice with you. I saw you coming late. I saw you on your phone. I saw you wasn't committed. This is my life. This is how my family eats. This is my legacy. I'm not about to pass you the ball. I got here first. I left last. I'm going to put it on my own shoulder. I don't trust you to be able to. Respect is not given because how long you've been in the league. Respect is not given because of what your name is. Respect is earned, and it's earned daily.
I love this. Any basketball star, Kobe or Jordan, sign me up. I've heard this story before. Kobe, early in his career, if you guys remember, was always called the Ball Hog, said he was selfish, takes all the shots. But his explanation for that was, well, you know what? I'm at practice 2 hours before you. I'm at practice 2 hours after you. Why would I pass you the ball when you don't earn it? You don't work as hard as me to actually be eligible to even get that opportunity. And some of us may be like, well, it sounds like Kobe's an ass. And you may take it that way, but he also has a point. It was funny when Kelly and I were gone this last weekend. We were at dinner with some people, and Kelly was just talking about sort of like the whole beginning of this year. And she's like, Adam just has this quiet confidence about him all the time. He doesn't need to talk about how good he is. He doesn't need to talk about what he's great at, but he just has this quiet confidence that it could be the craziest storm, and he's just confident in the direction or the advice that he gives. And for me, my mentality is very similar to Kobe's mentality with basketball. I know that I've studied business more than 99% of the people on the planet. I know that I've read more books probably than 99% of the people on the planet. I know that I've invested in myself more than 99% of the people on the planet. So I'm not saying I'm not open to other suggestions, because I think some of the best suggestions and advice we get in our business is from our team members and from our employees. But what I am saying is I'm so confident with the final decision, and it's due to all of the time and effort and energy that I've invested into building my skill set and into building my knowledge. And it's funny because I see the same thing happening with my kickboxing training. I remember early on, like when I started going to the MMA lab, they got a lot of pro fighters there, and I would walk and I just walk around and sort of be quiet, because I was like, any one of these dudes could like just whoop my ass in a heartbeat. And they still could. I'm not saying that's changed. But when I'm around other fighters, my confidence now in talking about fighting and strategy and just IQ and all of that stuff is at a much higher level than it was. I still have a ton to learn, but it was at a much higher level than it was because I've been putting in the reps. I've been training 4 times a week, like hard training on all of my combos, my conditioning, all of this stuff. And it's through those repetitions, the confidence has grown. So for us, if there's areas in our life or areas in our business when we're feeling unsure, you have one of 2 options. Number 1, become obsessed with that area of your business, like obsessed. Don't just watch a YouTube video, become obsessed. Read books, courses, like seek out mentors, message people like that you look up to that are experts in the subject, and just be curious and absorb as much as you can and have that obsession. Because if it's not an obsession, it just means that you're interested. Grover always asks, are you interested or are you obsessed? Michael Jordan was obsessed with basketball. Many of the other players in the NBA, they were just interested in it. They had a natural talent, and they were interested in it because they got money out of it. But the people that are obsessed and become truly obsessed with their craft and with their skill building, those are the people that get that earned confidence where they just know in those moments when everyone else is panicking that there's only one road, and this is the clear road, and this is the way we have to go, and come follow me, I got the flashlight. Like I will show you the way type of thing. And I'm sure many of you guys listening have some area in your life that you feel that way in. But wouldn't it be great if you felt that way in more areas of your life? So it comes through those reps, and it comes through being obsessed. I know we got some more Kobe's coming up in this podcast as well, of course.
As a CEO, you have one responsibility, and it's to be the fucking leader, which means if you have a challenge with any of your partners, any of your employees, or anybody, you hit it head fucking on. You pick up the phone and you call them and say, you and I need to have a conversation. You know how much I respect you. You know how much I appreciate everything you're doing, but we need to have a one-on-one because there's a dynamic that is brewing here. It might be unknowingly this has happened, but this is my perception. I want to talk to you about something that is on my mind, clear the air, and get us into a place to where you and I together can commit to each other, moving this thing forward and kind of get through this stuff. But when you speak to me, here's how I expect to be spoken to, and therefore how I'm going to speak to you. Here's how I would hope that you would be in alignment, like be the leader. There's no way around this. Part of it is having really tough conversations, even though you don't want to. And there's no benefit to you personally allowing it to brew up inside of you. So when we get on these meetings and I can sit there and see you, physically see you fucking biting your lip and your voice is cracking because you're pissed off about it, that just tells me that you're kind of at this point where it's like right here, right? And that means you're the only one that's really suffering. You need to hit it head fucking on and be a warrior. If shit happens, it happens. At least you're leaving it all on the field.
Kent Collier, by the way, dude's a genius. Like, he is so smart. I started following him sometime last year, and I'm just consistently impressed with him. Many entrepreneurs and business owners are afraid of hard conversations. And a lot of us handle the hard conversations the wrong way. And Kelly and I were just talking about this last week. A lot of us think hard conversations means that we have to yell at the person because they're not doing something that we think is right, or they're dropping the ball somewhere. That's not how you have hard conversations. That's how you have hard conversations go wrong and then make you not want to do them again. We have to approach it with emotional intelligence. And I think Kent just laid out a great blueprint for you guys. But it's number one, not being afraid to have those conversations, because, by having them puts both of you in a better place. But he just said it there. When you have a team member that's like unhappy or frustrated, and you can just see it in their body language and see it on their face, they're the only person suffering by holding that in, right? So for me as their mentor, I'm seeing that, and it's like, well, that is a sign that you and I need to talk so you're not suffering anymore. Because I don't want anyone in any of my companies to feel like they're suffering by coming to work every day. So let's sit down. And we just had this in one of my companies where I did this before I left for my trip last week with a team member, where I could just tell in staff training, like, he just had this body language that was almost off-putting, and it was contradicting everyone else's body language. And at our meeting, I was just like, hey, I've been seeing this, and this just through body language. Might be interpreting it wrong, but I sort of feel like you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out. What's going on? And then he opened up about it. We had a good, healthy conversation about sort of what he was feeling at the time. And there were some things I had to tell him that he probably didn't want to hear. But I'm also sure there's some things that he told me that it maybe was hard for him to tell me, or he thought I was going to have an emotional reaction from, or whatever the reason is. But at the end of the day, us having that conversation put us both in a better place. And it also just got us on the same page with what we were talking about. So don't run from hard conversations. Hit those head on right away. The quicker you resolve it, the quicker that person goes back to feeling confident in their work and happy being there. And the quicker you also remove that suffering for them. And I'm always the person too, that I always give them the option. I'm like, if I can tell that they're suffering, but sometimes just having that conversation, be like, hey, if you don't want to be here, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm going to support you in whatever you do. My goal is I want you to be happy at the end of the day. And of course, I love it if you are here happy with us. But if that's not an option, then I don't want you here, because it's not going to make you happy. And you're going to feel like you're suffering. It's going to be bad for your mental health. I'd rather have you go somewhere else where you feel happy and you feel fulfilled. And I'm going to root for you. I'll write you a recommendation letter. I'll be your biggest fan when you go do that. But you got to make the decision at the end of the day if that's what you want or not. And it's just about having those conversations and not building them up to be something bigger in our head that prevents us from actually sitting down with the person and talking to them. All right, let's go more Kobe.
This franchise does not hang division banners. It does not hang conference championships. We hang one banner and one banner only, and that's NBA titles. And you may not like it. You may think it sucks. You may think it's not great sportsmanship. Get over it. It is what it is. It's a city of champions for a reason.
So you're saying the Lakers do not hang divisional championships. They only hang world championship banners, and that's it. So what is Kobe talking about? He's talking about standards here. And if you don't like it, go play for a different team, right? For us, my question for you guys is, what is the standard for your athletes and your students on the mat? Are you doing a good enough standard? Or are you doing like, we want our guys to be the best standard? I want people to walk in the room, see our athletes on the mat, and be like, damn, like, if I'm going to train anywhere, this is the place I need to train. That and winning and championships, success, all of it comes as a result of setting high standards and holding those high standards. So for us, and I'm going to ask the same question to myself, where in our life and where in our business are we allowing the standards to slip? What area of my business am I okay showing off participation trophies and participation medals instead of championship trophies and championship medals? And it's funny because this last week I had like a couple days in nature, which was awesome, in Colorado, which is a beautiful place. And I got a lot of good time to just like journal, note take, reflect, and be very intrinsic. And I outlined some areas in my own businesses that I felt like I let the standards fall. And it's like, well, when I get back, guess what we're hitting head on is we're going to hit these areas of the business where I feel like the standards aren't up to par. And I was texting my manager while I was there. I'm like, hey, I'm seeing this happen. When I come back, I'm taking this back over. And it was funny because we did a school site visit while we were out there. We went to a school in Tennessee, and we just watched classes. I took class. I trained the staff. Kelly trained the owners and the staff as well, and we just had a really good weekend interacting with them. But one of the questions came up of like, when do you know that you have to step back in your business if you're already pulled out? And when do you know when you have to pull out of your business? Like, when you don't hit your numbers for a month, you better be back in your business, either training your team, taking something over, whatever it needs to be. Your eyes better be on your business, because 1 month can easily turn to 6 months, which can easily turn into a bad year, which can easily turn into 3 bad years, which can easily turn into a failed business model. When you're tracking the numbers daily, even better, you're going to be there. Like for me, and I might be a little bit retentive on this, if our sales numbers are crappy in the bed, like this last week, we had a terrible sales week at our school, just being transparent with you guys. What do you think we're focusing on this week when we're going in? We are kicking sales in the balls this week. Like, we are going all in on sales because it's where we need to focus our training. Because if it wasn't the area we need to focus our training, the numbers would reflect that. But I have a high standard for sales, 85%. I'm not a school that's okay with doing 50% sales. Like, enroll half the people, that's failure to me. 50% is an F in school. Why would it be an A for our business? And it's funny, like a good example of this is when I first opened the agency. I hired a mentor who just worked with agencies, and me being martial arts world and fitness world my whole life, I have no idea what like average closing rate for an agency should be. I have no idea what the average like lifetime stick rate of an agency should be. So I went in it thinking martial art numbers. I was like, all right, 3% attrition. Like, we can only lose 3% of our clients a month, and we must be enrolling 85% of the people on our calls. And I go, we need to keep them at least 12 to 14 months is the goal. And that was our focus. And what happened is, the first time I did a number review with my mentor at the time, I was like, I'm like sort of bummed about our attrition. I go, we had 6% attrition this month, and like, I'm a little freaked out. And he's like, you're freaked out over 6% attrition? I go, yeah, it's been our worst month. We've always been under 3% attrition for the agency. We had a 6% month. Like, I'm getting ready to redo systems now and want to look where we're dropping the ball. And he's like, Adam, he's like, whoa, dude. He's like, I don't know where you're getting like this 3% goal. He's like, it's unreasonable. He goes, in the agency world, he goes, you're going to lose about 30% of your clients every month. And that's why you got to keep running ads. And I was like, what? He goes, yeah. He's like, our best clients that we have, he goes, they have less than 30% attrition. He's like, they're like 20%, 10% range is like our best. He's like, so you've been at 3% this whole time, and you get a 6% month, and you were pissed. And he's like, it's the agency world, dude. But for me, I told him, I go, hey, I just proved that me not knowing what the number is supposed to be means that we can do much better than that. And I was like, I'm not going to go back to thinking 30% attrition is okay. I'm not going to go back to thinking that like enrolling like 20 to 30% of the people that you talk to is like good numbers for the agency world. And I was like, I was mad because we weren't at the 92%. We were at the month before. We were at like 80 something. And he's like, bro, he's like, your expectations are like way too high for the agency world. But the one thing is, I've never removed that from it. Like, I still think of it in the terms of martial art numbers, where I'm like, no, we want to be like 3 to 4% attrition a month. We want to make sure that we're keeping them for 14 months. When I found out the average stick rate in the agency world, most people stay with an agency for 3 months before they leave. And we were doing like 14 months at the time. And I was worried that I was like, how do we get it to 16? And he's like, yo, dude, he's like, you're already above 3. He's like, you're crushing the rest of the agency world. But it was because my standards were so high, because I was used to high standards from the martial arts business world, of what I was taught at least. So for us, I would encourage you guys to look at your goals and be like, do you have high standards or do you have average standards? Like, don't be the average school. Be the 1%. Be the one that sets higher goals than the other. Be the ones that, and make sure you incrementally climb. Don't be like, we did 30,000 this month, next month we're doing 100. Be realistic with it, but set a high standard for where you want your business to be. All right, I can tell this is a physical training one. Let's check it out. Okay, regardless of what style you teach, we just watched that video. This young lady, She got hands, she has movement, she has intensity, she has intent, she has attitude with her strikes. I want you guys to picture that video that we just showed and put it next to a video of your classes. If I'm a parent and I'm watching the video I just saw, and I'm watching a video of your classes, and if you even want to take a top 10% of your students, put them in that class, which one am I signing up for? Which one am I looking at and being like, ooh, I want my kid in that? For me, I realized this early on with the curriculum that we were teaching before, that I would watch class, and it was, for Taekwondo, it was good quality. It was good quality Taekwondo. And I think anyone in our area that saw our classes, other school owners would agree, right? But when I looked at it compared to boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, and how top people at those sports train, ooh, drastic difference. I want my kid in all of these sports. I don't want them in Taekwondo. And I'm not trying to crap on Taekwondo. It's just my personal opinion. And it may not be yours, and that's okay too. But for me, I saw the intensity and the intent and the attitude that came from those sports compared to what I was used to. And that was a big appeal for me, because I was like, man, I can see that translate to protection, like self-protection. I can't see what we were doing before and in my brain connect it with self-protection without telling myself a fairy tale first. Okay. And again, this is my opinion on my own stuff, right? So for us, I think when we're teaching and we're designing our curriculum and our class plans and stuff, how are we intentionally changing up the pace of what we're doing at times to make it more realistic and to make it more intense? And are we actually teaching our instructors how to do this as well? And I think in a lot of the instructor programs I've seen, and I have not seen them all, okay? So I'm not necessarily talking about the instructor program that you're in, but all these instructor training programs, a lot of them do not really focus at all on, well, how do you get them to up their intensity? Not just your speed, but your intensity. How do you get them to actually make it translate from how they practice to how they would actually use it in a self-defense situation? Good questions to ask ourselves.
Champions are broken. We're like, huh? He's like, people look at champions and try and find something that champion has that they don't have. And he's like, but it's not that at all. He's like, they lack something everyone else has, which is an off button. They just don't stop. At the end of the day, like, if we're optimizing for outcomes, then the most broken person will win. The person who has the absolute biggest desire for achievement, the absolute biggest fear or pain that they're running away from.
Cut it off early, but that's all right. Champions are broken, is what he said. And I have to sort of agree with that, just from my perspective. I grew up not as the naturally gifted athletic kid. I was like the overweight kid that I actually used to get made fun of in school for being like chubby. And I never came into martial arts or any sport as like the naturally gifted athlete. I wasn't the first pick on the dodgeball team or the kickball team. I was probably like one of the last picks in school. I had to work to become athletic. Like I had to work really, really hard. And I would obviously lived in a martial arts school growing up with my parents owning one, but I was on the mat before classes. I was on the mat after classes, and I was just drilling over and over and over again because I knew that I had to outwork everyone else that I trained with because they all had way more natural coordination, way more natural talent than me. I had to hustle my ass off to get like just a smidge of the talent that they had. But for me, it taught me how to persevere. It taught me how to embrace the suck. It taught me how to do hard things without complaining because I had to do it in order to succeed. I didn't have a choice when it came to martial arts training or basketball or whatever sport, gymnastics that I was doing at the time. And I think for us, we sort of put all of these gurus, champions, athletes up on this pedestal, and we expect them to be something other than human when we watch them. And Tim Grover does a great job talking about like the dark side in his books where, yes, Michael Jordan looked inhuman on the basketball court, right? But off the court, he was broken in many ways. Like he got in trouble for gambling. He got in trouble for like alleged extramarital affairs, all those things. So he's not a perfect human, but on the champion side, that may have played a part into him winning. And I'm not saying you should do that or I should do that. Anyone should do that. But the one thing we have to think of is that there's a pain that people are running away from a lot of time that pushes them towards greatness, right? Like for me, I think one of my pains is seeing generation after generation of Kifer never take a step forward and just being in the same spot generation after generation. That is such a pain point for me and a motivating factor for me to push out of that giant Kifer loop that's been happening for hundreds and hundreds of years. Like, I don't want that to be the future for Kifers anymore, and I want to be the person that changes that. For us, a lot of times we use our limitations and our brokenness as an excuse for why we can't do things. Instead, use that as a fuel to push you towards success, to push you towards breaking new barriers and breaking new records in your business and in your personal life. Use that as fuel, because I guarantee there's someone else going through the exact same thing that you're going through, or even worse. But instead of using it as an excuse to not to do something, they're using it as the reason of why I should do it. So turn those broken moments or those broken things in you into fuel.
What is the best advice you've ever heard or received?
Spend so much time on self-improvement that you have no time to criticize others.
Oh, I love this. Spend so much time on self-improvement that you have no time to criticize others. That resonated with me because as you guys know, I'm a very intrinsic person. I'm always self-analyzing, very in my own head a lot, just auditing my behaviors, the things that I say, the conversations I have with people. And there's times that just in conversation with another person where I may say something like negative because I don't agree with the way someone does something. And when I read this, when this came up in my feed, it was like right after one of those moments. And I was like, I need to be better about that. If I have something that's negative about someone, I just need to say it to them and not say it to a different person. And that came up, and I was like, that is such a great way to frame it of, I'm going to work on myself so much that I don't have time to talk about anyone else. I'm going to work on myself so much that I don't have time to even go say anything bad about other people. And the funny thing is, with all the stuff that happened at the beginning of the year, there's a lot of people shit talking me, and I was getting screenshots sent about it constantly from all different people in the industry, school owners, consultants, heads of organizations, whatever, right? But I was so busy just surviving and getting through everything that I had no time to even give them any attention as I was going through it. And it's a similar thing, but now it's just focusing on positive stuff instead of surviving. But I was thinking about it the other day too, even with TV and I'll play video games with my kids, but I also play Madden once in a while. I gotta keep sharp for my kids become teenagers so I can still whoop them in that game. But I was thinking, I almost want to work on myself so much that I don't have time to watch TV. That you are asking me about the latest movie that came out, and I have no idea what the heck you're talking about, because I've been so focused on building up my skills and investing in myself that I don't have time for those things. And I used to be the guy that was on the couch every Sunday watching the Bears, and then watching every other football game every Sunday, playing fantasy football. And it just got to a point where I was like, I think I did the math, and it was one Sunday I was watching football because they had the England game on at 9 a.m. or something, from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. at night. And Monday I'm sitting there and I'm just like, I wasted a whole freaking Sunday watching other people live out their dreams. That was what that's what it translated to for me. I was like, never again. Will I watch a Bears game occasionally? Yes, I'll record it and then I'll fast forward through the commercials and stuff. But football is not a priority for me to watch anymore. I would rather get quality family time on that Sunday, or work on improving something, or work on having a better relationship with my wife and continue to make our lives better. That's what I'd rather focus on than just sitting on the couch watching TV for an entire Sunday. So for us, it may be shit talking to other people. It may be watching too much TV, but be focused so much on personal development that you just don't have time for the bullshit. This is the easiest way. All right.
The Williams sisters was told what to do since they was 3 or 4 years old, became the greatest tennis players in the world. Mm-hmm. Tiger Woods was told what to do since he was a kid, became the greatest golfer. Floyd Mayweather, since he was 7, was told what to do, became the greatest boxer the world's ever seen. Mm-hmm. Michael Jackson was told what to do and became the greatest entertainer that's ever lived. Mm-hmm. My point being is, I think that when people are given direction, their achievement in life is a lot better than having so much free time on their hands.
I think that's something you could easily tie into a mat chat for parents specifically. all of those people he named had a coach at a young age or a parent at a young age giving them direction on how to get to greatness. Like, if you don't think the Williams sisters were playing more tennis than any other kids their age at the time, like, they would not be as successful as they were. Same, like Michael Jordan, we hear how his dad pushed him to be a baseball player most of his life, but also pushed him in his basketball because he saw his son's passion in basketball. Like, he had someone giving him direction from a young age. And that's essentially what we're doing for our communities, right? Is we're giving these kids direction at a young age to really grow into the best version of themselves, to get the unfair advantage in life that other kids their age don't have, because they're learning emotional intelligence, they're learning self-discipline, they're learning how to focus like a champion. They're learning all of these things that other kids aren't getting exposed to. And in essence, they're getting a step up on success in life as a result. And I think for us as business owners, who do you have giving you direction in your life and in your business? Do you have that person? Because I think you need it not only for business, I think you need it in your life as well. Like, I've talked about my different mentors and stuff, but if we just talk about the business side, I have Taylor Welch, I have Qasim, I have Perry Belcher. They're all like people that I will hit up when I have questions on things, or that I just go to because I want to stay on the cutting edge of what I'm learning, right? On the spiritual side, I have my pastor. I've Taylor, an element of that has been fantastic as well. I have my wife on the spiritual side. I have these people that are holding me accountable and pushing me in the right direction. I have Randy and Jody for my martial arts training that I'm always texting them like drill ideas or asking them questions about things, sending us videos of stuff. Like, I have these people in different areas of my life giving me that direction. I have my attorneys on the legal side of things that are giving me the direction. Essentially what's happening is, in each area that I just talked about, these people are giving me the shortcuts to success. That's what they're doing. Okay. Instead of me having to experience the failures and the incorrect training and the expense of doing things the wrong way for over and over and over again until I figure out myself, I have people that have already gone through those experiences and already gone through those failures and overcome them, that are like, yo, no, do it this way. Like, I already know that way doesn't work, so I've gone through it myself. This is the way to do it. And as a result, I feel like I'm picking up and grasping things at a faster pace. Kelly and I were just at the Driven Mastermind this last week, and it was funny. She's been in a full year. And I remember at our very first mastermind in Scottsdale, the Driven one we went to, Kelly, like halfway through the first day, she looked at me and she's like, this is so over my head. She's like, my brain is like so full right now. And she's like, I just don't know how to keep up with everything that they're saying. Fast forward a year, we've been going to consistently now. This time she's like, this was the first one where like everything clicked. Like, I didn't feel like I didn't know anything. I didn't feel like everything was being spoken up here and I'm down here. She's like, everything was just like perfectly fit into place like a piece of a puzzle. And I swear to God, if she did this whole journey on her own of trying to sort of level up and learn the things that are being taught in this mastermind on her own, it would have took probably 100 times the hours of investment of learning than it actually took learning from these experts who have already shortcutted it themselves and have done all the testing themselves to show you, hey, this is the way that works. Don't even look at those other options. We already tried them. This is the way you have to do it. So find that mentor, get the shortcut to success in life as a result. All right, next. Let's do this one.
Because great players don't get tired. They just don't. And what makes them great is when the good players get tired, the great player kicks their ass. That's the difference. So every day you're working on that. Every day you're working on that. We can coach ball screens and passing into the post and cutting and playing defense. We're not here to coach your energy level and your effort. That's a given. You wouldn't be here if I had to coach that. That's what other coaches have to do. They have to coach energy. We don't. You all know that. You all know that. Okay?
My question for you guys is, how much certainty did he just speak that to his team with? There was no, like, I'm unsure if that's the way he does things. John Calipari spoke to his team. He's like, this is who we are. This is how we do it. I don't care if another team does it different. I don't care if they don't expect you to have energy throughout the entire practice. Great players don't get tired. We don't get tired. I should not have to coach you up on energy. I should not have to coach you up on effort. Those are things that you need to bring to the table every day, time and time again. when was the last time we had that talk with our athletes? Or when we just had a hard conversation with our athletes in general because they weren't up to par? Or when was just the last time you talked to your athletes about the standard and what it means to be an athlete in your school? Hey, at Move Martial Arts, this is how we do this. We don't walk on the mat late. We are here on time and early because we are champions. Okay, champions are the first one there, they're the last one to leave. That's how we do this at Move Martial Arts. There's no other way to do it. You start setting that standard, what happens is when someone is late or someone does have to leave early, it is like, what? Like, that actually happened? Like, I never seen that before. That's what we wanted. We wanted to be rare occurrences instead of the culture, right? So for us, how are we communicating the standards that create the culture in our facility and the culture of how we train, the culture of who we are as athletes? Yes, you can have visual reminders, but it's really holding them to the standards on the mat and not letting the standards lower to where the athlete is at. All right, next, we got a few more.
Do you wait for practice to start or do you prepare for practice to start? See, there's only one of two. Those are the only two options for players. Elite level players don't wait for anything to start. Elite level players prepare for everything to start. So that would be my next question. Do you have a pre-practice preparation routine? And then the question after that is, how similar is that to your pre-game routine? If you only take games seriously, but you don't take practice seriously, then you won't be the player that you're capable of. And you certainly won't be the team that you're capable of. So preparation during the unseen hours is the number one separator for players and for teams.
Are you waiting for practice or are you preparing for it? I love this because I have a very similar routine that I do every single time before I go to train with Randy or before I go to the gym. And when I miss the routine, I can tell in the workout that something is off, right? I know, like, we hear superstitions with like basketball players. Like Michael Jordan used to wear his NCAA shorts underneath his Bulls jersey like every single game, right? Superstitions, but it's not necessarily superstition. It's his routine. It's his preparedness. Like, he takes it seriously. He always used to have steak before every basketball game. He had the same meal every single time, right? Champions prepare. Everyone else shows up, right? There's a reason, like, when you look at some of the best players historically through whatever sport they're in, most of them weren't starting practice when everyone else started. They were in before they're shooting baskets. They were in before shooting shots on goal. Whatever it is, they were there before because they knew if they didn't do that, they'd just be like everyone else. They had to do something different that would set themselves apart. And this is a great thing to talk to your athletes and your students about in your school. Like, are you just waiting for practice to start, like watching TV and waiting for it to start, or on your iPad waiting for it to start? Or are you preparing for it? And then you talk to them about some of the things that you do to prepare for it. So, like, if I was talking through my routine, I'm like, hey, the night before, I get all of my boxing gloves ready, my wraps, I get my change of clothes and my towel so I can shower at the gym afterwards. Like, everything is ready to go the night before. I make sure that in the morning I do the same thing. I wake up, I get my water, I take my vitamins. I make sure that I know exactly what I'm going to be listening to on the way to practice because I have to drive about an hour and a half for me to get to my practice in the morning. So I'm usually on the way there. I'm listening to podcasts about fighting. I'm listening to like interviews with Customato, who is Mike Tyson's coach. I'm listening to Teddy Atlas interviews. I'm listening to all these different people in the fight world, occasionally Sugar Sean O'Malley's podcast. But I'm listening something to something that's going to get me in the right mindset for what I'm about to go and do. Okay. And sometimes it might just be, I'll throw on some Eric Thomas because that dude's like, hoorah, ultimate motivator. But I'm going to put something that's going to be in the mindset that is going to help me to perform the best. And then I drink water the entire way to there. I always make sure I have an extra thing of water afterwards. And then I usually hit a protein shake on the way home. And that's like my process every single time. And when I don't do that exact process, something feels off. It's the same thing like business. Are you just showing up and working, or are you preparing for your work day or your work week as the business owner? My journaling at night prepares me for the next day because I'm going through and I'm pretty much doing an audit of my day, thinking about what could I have done better? What was I proud of that I did? And what are just my general thoughts on what I need to do in the future to make the day better? And I journal all of that out, but that becomes reminders for me to make sure I don't make the same mistakes moving forward, to make sure that I learn from my mistakes and get better, to make sure that if I found something that works, that I make that a habit. And that's sort of that reference for me. My Sundays is looking at my calendar for the week and being like, all right, what meetings do I need to prepare for? Putting time on the schedule for actually prepping for those meetings. When do I need to have deadlines done for this week? And if my deadline's Thursday, what times during the week am I actually doing the work to meet that deadline, right? And it's being intentional about that stuff. And it's funny, I used to never do that. The first week I did it, I probably had one of the most productive weeks of my life because I knew exactly what was going to happen every single day, when I'd be doing things, what I had to do, and I kept myself accountable for those things. Now, even if you do that 2 weeks out of 4 in a month, is it better than not doing it at all? Absolutely. So how are we preparing for our best performance when it comes to work, when it comes to showing up as a leader? How are we preparing for that? A lot of times I know if I have to talk to a team member and have a hard conversation about a certain subject, usually on the way to work that day and the night before, I'm listening to podcasts or I'm listening to YouTube clips of people talking about that specific thing. Because for me, I know I have one way to communicate about whatever I need to talk to this person about, but it doesn't mean it's the best way for them to receive it. So now I'm going to hear as many different people talking about how to fix this problem as possible. So that way I have a more complete way to be able to present it to the person that I'm going to meet with. And I find just by doing that, you go into your workday more confidently, you go into your meetings more confidently. You just have like that quiet killer confidence. All right, next.
One of the best things I ever did was Systems Saturday. Every Saturday, I worked and created one SOP every single Saturday, and I did it for years, to the point where everything in my business eventually became super documented and systematized. And then I started outsourcing everything and delegating and automating or stuff like that. So people started coming to me, and one guy said, hey, I'll pay 10 grand if I can follow you for one day and get my hands on your software. And I'm like, you're going to pay me $10,000 for one day? And he's like, yeah. And so he did. And a couple weeks later, he circled back around. He's like, that one day changed my business. I am on this really fast roll right now, and I'm making all this progress. I have a friend that wants to do the same thing. Would you do it with him? And it just snowballed around town like that. And that's how the Clever Investor was born.
Yeah, I love that. So first part of that is we know that writing systems is a long process. Okay, it's not something that you can sit down and knock out all your systems for your business like in a week. Like it's a process, right? And then there's testing the systems and all that stuff. So he knew there was a problem in his business in the form of systems. He dedicated and themed a specific day to creating those systems until they were all created and it was finished, right? For us, a lot of us have something that we've been putting on the back burner continuously that we have not been doing a great job making time for in our life. And my challenge for you guys is theme it out in your week. Okay, I did this when I first wanted to become better about generating wealth and better with my finances and be more financially disciplined. I did Finance Fridays. Okay, and every Friday I had 4 hours blocked off, and I was either going through doing bookkeeping, I was allocating funds to the right accounts, and then I would just study money. I went through Taylor's wealth course that he has as part of his program, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Profit First, Be Your Own Banker. I don't know. There's a whole list of these. But I specifically focused for 2.5, 3 years every Friday on just money. Okay. And I still have a chunk of time every Friday dedicated to just money. All right. Updating all my numbers, all that stuff goes into that same time chunk. But be intentional about it. And here's the other thing. A lot of us are getting inconsistent results in our business because we hired the person before we hired the system. Okay. Throughout my life, I've always had a few people that have worked for me that people come up and they're like, oh, I need one of those. Like, I need a Kelly. Or when Dream was our manager, I need a Dream. Or I still get it now, like I need an April. I had someone come up to me when we had our mastermind one of the days of training at the school. They're always like, I need one of these. I need a Leah. Well, here's the thing. You don't find superstars. It's very rare that you find someone like that's just naturally a superstar. Systems create superstars. All right. Systems create superstars. So if you have these systems in place that already have a track record of success and you plug a person with the right personality that's been trained and has the right skill set and confidence into that system, they look like a superstar. They look way better because they're in the right system. Going back to sports analogies, because that's what I grew up on, you will see in the NBA, the NFL, a player shine on a team and have like career year after career year, and then all of a sudden they get put on a different team and they don't get the same results. And it's because they looked like a superstar because of the system they were playing in. If we look at the Patriots, for example, Bill Belichick, he had Wes Welker, who is not seen as a great, like amazing wide receiver. He had Danny Amendola, same thing, was not seen as a great wide receiver. They become great because of the system they were playing in. Like Tom Brady ended up being the GOAT, right? I don't know if he would have excelled in any other system the same way he did under Belichick. I think it was part him being a great athlete and having a great mindset, but I also think part of his success was because he was in a system that nurtured his growth and that worked well with his skill set, right? So for your team, be like, man, I wish I had more competent people, or I wish I had a team full of rock stars. Well, did you actually install the systems first that would help to transform them into a rock star or into a superstar employee? Or are they just doing the best with winning it on this and this and this and this? And there's a difference between teaching and training. Teaching is I told you how to do something, I showed it to you once, and now you're doing it. Training is consistency in teaching over time, okay? And supervising the teaching over time. It's not a one conversation, they should have it thing. It is a system. All right, a couple more here, and then we are going to call it a day. Pace Morby is a genius. If you guys aren't following this guy, so smart, and he's crushing in the real estate game. Let's check him out.
If I was going to start today and I had to make money today, here's what I would do. I would go on Crexi, CREXI.com. And I'd go on Crexi and I would filter owner finance. They have listings on owner finance. I could buy a gas station. I could buy a car wash. I could buy a cash flowing asset today with no money down by just calling a seller and saying, hey, I'd like to make payments to you if you would sell this to me at the price you're offering. I'm not calling people that just listed it today. I'm calling people that listed it 5 months ago and still haven't sold it. I'm finding people that have specific pain, and I'm buying something that's making monthly income. Best asset that I've done is actually right down the road in Yuma. It's an 85 unit mobile home park, and the seller's retiring. If a seller of an 85 unit mobile home park that's owned this thing for 20 years, he's self-managed it for 20 years. If he wants to retire, Mark, without paying taxes, how does he sell that asset? You don't. You either leverage it with debt, which now you're not retiring, you're still in the game, you're still playing that game, or B, you sell it and you 1031 it into a larger asset.
All right. If you showed me this video 3 years ago, I would understand like 2% of what the hell he just said. All right. Now it makes way more sense. Pace Morby is such an outside the box thinker that he's obtained massive success as a result. He was on Grant Cardone's podcast, and just to give you a quick overview on Pace Morby, and if he watches this, I'm sorry if I just totally messed up how I explain what you do. So he's in real estate investing. What he does is he buys houses and apartment units and all these different things with zero money down, zero credit checks, all of that stuff. He always does creative financing with these people, and it works. And he was on Grant Cardone's podcast, and you guys know Grant Cardone. He's a real estate guy as well. He learned how Pace was doing what he was doing, and Grant Cardone was literally speechless, which for Grant Cardone to be speechless, he likes to hear his own voice. He likes to talk. For him to be speechless with what someone else is doing in the real estate sector, which is like his bread and butter, just shows that like this guy does things differently. All right. Notice what he did. He's like, if you have no money and want to build wealth now, this is how you do it. You think outside the box. You go find these people that are trying to sell their business, getting nowhere with it, and then you offer payment plans. You offer something creative to get them there. It was interesting. During the pandemic, we almost ended up taking over a martial arts school. But when I had the first conversation with the broker and the school owner, I want to say they had 150 students at the school. The problem was they had cashed out like 80% of them, 85% of them, meaning that they paid in full or whatever. So there's no recurring revenue coming from a majority of them. About 15% of those people they're actually collecting payments on. So it's doing like $7,000 to $10,000 a month. So anyway, they come to me and they're like, we want, I want to get the number right. I think they asked for $200,000. And this is before I knew it was all paying full. So I was like, well, let's break up the books a little bit. Let's look at everything. And then I'm seeing the recurring revenue, and they did like $125,000. I think like $125,000 the previous year. But I'm looking and they have 150 students. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, the math isn't mathing. I'm like, how did you only do $125,000 last year, but you have 150 students? I'm like, where am I missing it? And that's when we found out about all the pay in full. So you had people that did a 2-year pay in full that were on the second year last year. So there's no money coming in from those people anymore. And also, like, they didn't have much money in their account, like in their business account, that showed like, oh, they've been holding all of these pay in full people's in here. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, I don't need the mats. I don't need like all the equipment in there because it's not our brand. I'm not paying $200,000 for that. So I said, all right, well, how about this? You guys are planning on closing anyway. Why don't we just take over the students? I'm like, I will pay you the monthly payments of whoever's still making monthly payments for the first 3 months that we take over. And I go, your lease is up anyway, so we don't need the space. You guys aren't going to lose money on the space. Are you guys good with that? So then they came back and they're like, well, just give us $25,000 total and you're good. And for me at the time, it didn't go through because it was middle of COVID, everything was shut down. And I was too unsure of how many of those people were going to quit that were on the monthly. I knew everyone that paid in full would stay on, but we're also not collecting any money from them. But the reason I'm telling you guys this story is there had to be some back and forth happening with some creative ways to approach this, right? So for me, I was like, well, I don't want to pay anything up front because I don't know if I'm going to get monthly payments for that long from these people, especially everyone. And they hadn't done any virtual classes either. So they had all these students that hadn't been training in 2 months that were supposed to be the monthly payments coming back. So I was like, instead, no, I'm more comfortable. Like, let's do the monthly. And I just give you that monthly each month for 3 months, and then we'll call it a day. Now, they didn't end up wanting to do that, which is fine. It didn't work out. Cool. But it didn't work out because it didn't meet my terms for the agreement. It didn't meet my standard for the agreement. So get creative with ways to find money. Get creative with ways to do new deals. It should always be a not yet, never a no. Okay. If there's a problem in our business, I might not be able to figure it out yet, but it's not a no. I'm going to be able to figure it out. I'm going to find a way. There's to every problem, there's a million solutions. And as soon as we get closed-minded and think that, oh, it's too hard, we can't find a solution, we can't do it, that's when we're lost. You have to be so flexible with your ability to problem solve that no problem seems unsolvable. Because as soon as a problem feels unsolvable to you, how do you think your team's confidence in you is going to show up? But if they know every time a problem comes up, you're just like, hey, calm down. I got this. I know exactly what to do. Let's do this. And if this doesn't work, then we'll try this. Like, let's figure it out. We got this. That all of a sudden, like, geez, like, I thought this was a big deal. It's not a big deal. Adam's already got a plan. Like, let's move forward with it. Okay. We have last 3 to go, and the last one's a good one. It's a funny one, but let's go to this one.
The easiest way to get people to tell you the truth is to prove to them that you can handle the truth. And you can do that by criticizing yourself out loud and saying, here are the things that I'm bad at. Here are the things I've been told I need to work on. And when you do that, you're not just claiming that you're open, you are actually demonstrating that you can take it. But a lot of leaders are still hesitant to do this. You don't necessarily want people to know what you're bad at. Well, I have some news for you. Guess what? The people you work with closely, they already know what you're bad at. You can't hide it from them, so you might as well get credit for having the self-awareness to see it and the humility and the integrity to admit it out loud.
I love this. So we work with a lot of business owners, obviously. And one of the things that I hear somewhat frequently is like, I don't think my team's being honest with me with feedback, or they don't give me feedback. And a lot of times it could be that you're just not asking for it, but a lot of times they see how you respond to feedback, or they see how you respond to criticism, and that's why they don't give you feedback again. And that's why they don't be honest with you with things again, because they're always worried about how you're going to react to it. One of the best things I ever heard to do is from Dan Martell, which I stole this immediately, is we have an SOP for how to work with Adam. And this gets given out to every new hire that we have for any company. And in this SOP talks about my standards and different things like that. But there's also a list of things that are my biggest weakness, so that we can be very transparent with them, jumping on with our company that, hey, Adam's great at a lot of things, but there's also some things that Adam is terrible at. Here are those things. Okay. And for me, it's number one, I want them to know those things so they don't look to me as the person to help them with those things. Like for me, if you talk about just general organization. Like I'm very below average to average at this. And that's why every single number 2 person at all my companies has a very similar personality type, and they're all hyper organized, because I need a hyper organized person to offset my lack of organization, right? But when you start to actually be open and honest with your team about your weaknesses, number 1, it shows to them that you are a human, right? A lot of times your team members or your employees are going to put you on a pedestal, especially on the martial arts industry, more than anything, because they've been training with you since they were a kid. They've been with you for like 7 years or 10 years. So they have you up on this pedestal, like where you're almost more than a human. Okay. And the problem with that is it creates this large gap between you and that person where they don't feel like they can be honest with you because they look up to you. Oops, sorry. They look up to you so much they don't feel like they can be transparent or honest with you about things, because they feel like by them telling you their vulnerabilities, they're going to let you down. So we don't want that. But also, besides it just showing that we're human, it helps them to relate with you. They have weaknesses. They have things they're not good at as well. And when you're the first one to open up about that, it sets a precedent that, like, hey, it's okay to not be great at everything. And it's also okay for us to talk about the things that we're not great at and be open and honest about those things. I'd much rather have that than have an ego-filled like team where everyone just is constantly talking about how great they are at everything and just lying to themselves constantly. All right, let's go to the next one.
It needs correction.
You don't know that!
I'm the only one who knows that.
All right, me trying to convince my wife to send our son to Thailand so he can become the greatest fighter of all time. And then last one, this is just another funny one.
Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
What?
Do what? Let the dogs out. You know, like, who let the dogs out? Who brought this guy along?
All right, someone's going to get butthurt off of this because it's sort of shitting on Taekwondo because Zach Galifianakis is the Taekwondo one and the other one's like MMA, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. But I think the reason that last one is funny is because there's a little bit of truth in it. And here's the thing, like even from being more ingrained in like the MMA side of things, not fully ingrained, just more ingrained, MMA people and like jiu-jitsu people don't have necessarily a problem with Taekwondo or don't have a problem with karate. What they have a problem with is people trying to say that Taekwondo, like me doing a low block reverse punch, would work for self-defense or work in a real life fight, which I've watched a shit ton of fight footage, not just UFC, like street fight footage. When I was putting our self-defense curriculum together back in the day, never once did I see any front stances in a single one of those street fights. Like not a single one. I didn't see any low blocks either. Well, Adam, that's because it's disguised because of the bunkai. Bullshit.
A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit.
That's what they have a problem with. Like a lot of MMA guys actually respect the hell out of karate and Taekwondo kickers because they are usually at a very high level of kicking and usually have pretty decent footwork, especially they're coming from point fighting side over to MMA. Like they respect that side of it. What they don't respect is sort of like the mindset and the ego that people bring in with that skill set to the MMA side. And like, guys, I was example number one of that when I did jiu-jitsu the first time. I went in with like 5th degree black belt ego, like carrying it on my shoulders, like this big, walking in, and then you get tapped like 8 times in 30 seconds. And all of a sudden it humbles you and you realize your 5th degree doesn't mean shit in jiu-jitsu because it's a completely different sport and a completely different animal. So what I'm saying is let's just be honest with ourselves about what we're teaching and what it's actually for, right? If you're teaching a self-defense move that's against the choke and it actually works and it's practical and you've actually asked people their opinion on it and like people that know choke stuff, like maybe ask a jiu-jitsu guy and you've asked their opinion of it and they're like, yeah, that's a great technique to work. That's a great thing to do. Keep doing that. You should be confident in that. You should keep teaching it the way that you're teaching. But if you're afraid to show the technique to other people because you're afraid they're going to all shit on the technique and say it won't work and it's terrible, it's probably because there's some truth to it. It's probably because there's some truth to it. If you're confident enough to post it online as a tutorial and you know that people are going to be like, that shit's going to work, go for it. The internet will humble you also, much like your first jiu-jitsu lesson. That's all we got, guys. I hope you had some fun today. I hope you didn't take anything I said too seriously today. We love having you guys as listeners. I can't wait to see all of you at the Relentless Summit this year. The best lineup ever. You guys are going to love it. tickets are going fast. We sold like 100 really fast, slowed down for a couple of days, and now we're seeing purchases come through every single day. That 300 mark is going to be fill in no time. We just booked a comedian as well. So if you guys were at the second summit, you got to meet Ali Makovsky, who's been on Joe Rogan, who's won the golden ticket on Kill Tony. She is a rock star. She's coming back. All new set, all new material to the summit this year. So we're excited to have her back as well. That's all I got, guys. See you on the next episode.
We're unstoppable. To the top, we about to go. That CEO, I need to know the impact we about to grow. Competition comical. Straight A1, we on the road. Money focus for the goal. Tell them what they need to know. We unstoppable.